the buffoonery of Adam Schiff and Swalwell and everybody else over there, who for years told us, by handing up the Steele dossier, that President Trump was basically Putin's asset, which was hilarious now because it turns out that the only people that Putin was running was the Democratic Party. And that should upset people because it hurts national security. What they're doing is they're politicizing the national security apparatus of the United States. And that's not a political thing. National security, it's not a political thing when I say that. It should just be, do you want to protect the borders? Yes. Do you want to defeat terrorists? Yes. Do you want to bring hostages home? Do you want to end the forever wars? I haven't met anyone that said no to any of those things. But Trump did it, so he was excoriated for it. And the only thing they could focus on was any political headline that would detract from his success in the national security sector that I happen to be a part of, and I was glad to be a champion of it. And it used to not be like that, but like you said, it's not stopping. They have got the midterms this year. We do. They don't have anything to run on. They're just running against Trump, and I don't know if these guys know it, but he's been out of office for a year.
I was reading last night a Newsmax article regarding January 6th and your words with regards to the 10 to 20,000 National Guard men and women who were requested in. And then we have this seemingly looking almost inside jobs kind of thing happen at the Capitol, which is insane. How does Pelosi, this is a loaded question, how do people like this get away with this stuff and get the American public, and I should say not the patriots, but some of the American public, to buy this story? I don't get it, Kash.
The media. It comes back to the same thing time and time again. It's the media. The media is so bankrupt. Forget the whole anonymous sourcing thing, which was a whole nother bogus charade the media ran on for so long. And they were continued a year later to be proven false on every story, be it Bountygate scandal, be it COVID origins, things that you should want the media and would hope the media would accurately report on, intentionally didn't do because it happened under Trump, and they couldn't grasp the fact that commander-in-chief was looking out for America's best interest. They didn't want him to. They literally wanted him to succeed. Look, I say this and people look at me like I have 10 heads, but I'm like, Joe Biden's our president. On the national security front, I want that guy to succeed. Because if he doesn't succeed, we, America, are getting eaten up on every facet of our national security apparatus. I don't think it's a problem for Republicans to say, I want him to succeed in the national security arena. We're failing. We're failing because look at Iran. Look at what they're doing. They're getting ready to dictate to us whether or not there's a nuclear program in Iran. China is taking shots at American dummy ships in the South China Sea. Russia is continuing to have a field day, and Putin's spending probably like 12 grand just propagandizing what he's doing in the Ukraine and Crimea and now Kazakhstan. And he's just sitting there having a laugh because he's never going to actually invade those countries. But the fact that the U.S. posture around the world has weakened so much, so greatly, because we have prioritized the weather and climate change ahead of the defense of this nation, allows these countries to dictate to us. And the media just says, look at all these great diplomats. And I tell them, what have they accomplished?
Other than legal routes, which obviously we have to take, you have a populace who, honestly, like, I worry about even the midterms because I feel like people are losing tremendous confidence in the voting. And to the point where I'm hoping this doesn't happen, but people don't show up. What are the other ways, other than the legal aspect, that we fix this? So not only just election integrity, but to stop the Pelosi's of the world, stop the Schiffs of the world, because we all feel like it's rolling downhill against us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you. And how do you do it? You get you to do a show, and you market it, and you put people onto it, and you push it as hard as you can. Because I tell people when I do live events around the country for Fight with Cash, if you can impact 3 people, that's a win. That's a huge win. That's how you win elections. That's how you change political platforms for what America wants. Look, don't take my word for it. Loudoun County and Virginia. How do we switch Virginia from top to bottom, Democrat to Republican? They fought for the issues at the school board level, at the county level, at the city level, and they rode the Republicans right out of Virginia. A purple state now is firmly red from the governor onto the attorney general onto the lieutenant governor on down, including their house. The same thing I think is going to happen across the country when you have great programs like yours talk about these matters. And we just got to get the word out. And you got to do random things, too, right? Like everywhere I go, I tell people to watch The Plot Against the President because I think it's the greatest documentary. Why? A, get educated on what happened in Russiagate. But B, know that there's a force out there that has been reporting on this stuff like you accurately, not just since yesterday, but for the last like 3, 5, 7 years. People just need to be made aware that there are other outlets to get their news from. And I think we're starting to win on that because Twitter stuff's down. Obviously, the mainstream media is down. The Times, the Post, all those guys are down, and more people are tuning into programs like yours. And that's how you win.
No, I would agree. I was actually studying last night, and I'm like, okay, so Rumble's going, and then I see Devin Nunes, your guy, all of our guy, we love him, who is CEO of Truth Social. Is that not correct?
He's the CEO of TMTG, so Trump Media.
Okay, right? Trump Media,
which runs Truth Social and a bunch of other things. And why would Devin Nunes, and Devin's a dear friend, my former boss. You talk all the time. Why would he leave Congress? Why would he leave one of the biggest posts in Congress? Because he believes, as you and I do, that there's something beyond serving in Congress that's more important to him. And that was the media. And he thought with his platform, and I agreed with his decision to head up Trump Media, he could change it. He could deliver us conservatives a different alternative to Facebook and Twitter and whatever all the other things are called. I don't even know. And that's why he left, because he's so passionate about it. And we're so passionate about helping Americans see that and offer them that alternative, be it on Fight with Cash or TMTG. And I'm sure we're going to, have crossovers with your program and things like that. That is how you slowly change the narrative. And look, I'm fully confident in the midterms. I think we are going to win the House and the Senate. It's just a matter of how much. And once we do
I love your hope on that. Absolutely do.
Yeah, no, we're fighting for it. And once we do that, and then here's the kicker, we get back the gavels. We get back the constitutional oversight in Congress. So we focus on oversight that matters for America. Back to security, back to national security, back to the military, back to the intel community, back to funding programs, back to figuring out how to actually combat the China virus and things like that. Things that matter. Taking out politics from the heads of these institutions. That is the biggest win we could have.
I feel like if we have really good people like Devin Nunes working behind him as CEO, that means Kash Patel probably has some really cool secrets behind the scenes he's working on, and he's going to be involved with all this stuff too. And dude, I love your background, but I also love, it's interesting with Donald Trump coming from New York. I'm from New York originally. We have such a great melting pot of people who aren't in their spot because the color of their skin, the race, the religion. It's because they are great at their jobs, and he picked the best, but it also shows how great America really is.
I couldn't agree more. That's a great summary. That should be like the headline for like the next month on your show, because that's what he did. President Trump, Devin Nunes, all these guys, they didn't look at you and be like, so we need a minority, we need a female, we need a person with this sexual orientation, we need someone who comes from this community, who lives there. Who's the best person for the job? Interview, get in front of them, and make your case. And they always pick the best person for the job. Donald Trump could care less what your background was. It's cool that he and I happen to be from Queens. That was a nice, fun coincidence. But I don't think he knew that till like 2 years after I knew him. And things like that. And he was like, "Oh, Cash, you're an Indian American, a brown guy. We got to have you in the, in the shop here." That's how other people. That's how some in the left dictate who should be employed where, and that can't happen in government service because it's service. It's a privilege. No one's forcing you to do it, and if you can't cut it, or you don't have the background to handle that apparatus, then you shouldn't be there because you're serving the American people who aren't themselves able to serve. And you have to have 100% from them. And I think we're going in the opposite direction, unfortunately, with this administration. But highlighting it here is critically important.
You sound like you have a presidential run in you someday with that voice. I like that.
I'm never running for anything, ever. Ever. It's not happening.
Before I let you go today, John Durham,
Mhm.
man, John Durham is in the regular world, the conspiracy world, the media. Like it's like he is like the stealth guy that everyone wants to hear from. I hear about indictments all over the place, sealed indictments, etc. Do we have a hope of hearing from him hopefully this year and dropping some hammers?
Yes, 100%. And not that I have an inside track on any of it, but as a former federal prosecutor, as a national security guy, an intel guy, I see what John Durham's putting out. And I've talked about this extensively on my show, Cash's Corner, which is over on Epoch Times, but we just flipped it to a free podcast. So you guys can just bore yourselves with it. But we do deep dives into every indictment that John Durham has issued. Sussman, Danchenko, Kleinsmith. You know, what you have to do is summarize what they've done. John Durham. He's indicted the FBI for intentionally lying to a federal court. He's indicted the Clinton campaign and their lawyers for intentionally lying to the FBI and shoveling false information to them. He's indicted the number one source in the Steele dossier for what? Providing bogus information and lying about it. That's the trifecta. He's taking out the source, the government institution, and the political party behind the largest criminal enterprise in American history. And what does John Durham do? Instead of issue 2 to 3, 4, 5 page indictments, which is the norm for some of these cases that he's brought, 40 and 50 pages. Why is he doing that? Because John Durham doesn't leak, and the only lawful way for him to speak to the public is through a public indictment. Look at the people he's named in these things that are part of this ongoing investigation. Jake Sullivan, the current national security advisor, Glenn Simpson, Fusion GPS, half the people at the State Department, people like Charles Dolan, who no one ever knew about. I ran Russiagate. I didn't know about that guy till John Durham found him, which leads me to believe that John Durham is running a righteous investigation. But I remind people, man, there was cases I worked 2, 3, 4 years before we brought an indictment on. This is complex stuff, and I wish it moved faster. And in the times of the China virus, you know, we're only slowed down because grand juries are limited and whatnot. But I think he's moving methodically. I don't want to see a John Durham report for like 2 years. I want to see more indictments. And I think in the spring, summer of this year, you're going to see 2, 3, 4 indictments that are going to be pretty shocking. And that's what America wants, is accountability for those who think they have the right to live by a different set of rules. Those being Clapper and Comey and McCabe and Strzok and Lisa Page and Glenn Simpson and James Baker at the FBI and Bruce Orr at the DOJ and all these other people who used to serve at the highest levels of government corrupted it for us. So I'd say stay tuned, and you know, I'll come back on your show anytime and talk about John Durham. Check out Cash's Corner. The podcast just went live. I think I've done 6 shows on John Durham, but I, you know, it's very personal to me, and so I like talking about it.
Man, I think America would celebrate in unison if we actually could take down the Clinton operation and the Obama operation and what they've done. I mean, is at this point, I think every American at least doesn't like them and at least knows that they've done something criminal.
Yeah, look, and here's the reality. Look, is Hillary Clinton ever going to get indicted? No. You know, is James Comey going to get indicted? Probably not. But if you get an Andy McCabe, the deputy director, who's worked at the behest of James Comey, and then you get a report from John Durham, which we will get at the end of the day, which excoriates the Clinton campaign and their leadership and their work, and the James Comeys and the Brennans of the world, I think that's a fair amount of accountability. We have to live in reality. We can't have these fake conversations where people are like, when is Obama getting indicted? It's not happening, okay? That's ludicrous. Like, let's have a real conversation, and let's reset the goalpost to reality. And I think that's what we've been trying to work on. And I'm glad I'm able to come on your show and talk about it for a little bit. But hope to be back and talk about all things, and encourage your audience to check out fightwithcash.com with a K and support us where you can.
Absolutely. We're showing it one last time, and everybody just go over there, get hooked up with Cash. If you have a situation where you're involved with it, obviously do that as well. It would be really, really great. Help everybody out. Cash, again, I appreciate being on the show. Thank you so much for your patriotism, your service, and everything you're doing.
Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
So there is Cash. Man, good information. Like, big time drops, letting you know what is coming. Just a great dude. And I appreciate, we're going to leave it at that because his word is big. And obviously he is in the inside. They call him a Trump guy, meaning he's right next to the president, right next to Chris Miller, DOD, knows what's happening, knows what's going on behind the scenes. Plus, I feel like he knows a little bit more, and that's good. He's going to do what is needed to help save and restore the republic. So everybody, I appreciate it. Appreciate having Kash on. This is Dr. Dean, Brave TV. Love, help, serve your fellow neighbor.